The views expressed in this interview are those of the individuals and do not reflect the official policy or position of the U.S. government, the Department of Defense, the U.S. Navy, or the Naval Postgraduate School. Welcome to the Trident Room, brewer of stout conversation, unfiltered and on tap.
Welcome, friends. This is host Elena Youngblood, and we are starting our very first episode of a new series that we're trying out. We are calling this series Cheers with Beers, where we all just get around a table in the Rose Garden at the Trident Room, pick a topic from a glass, and discuss it. So, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hello, my name is Alora Hastings. I am staff here at NPS. I'm your events coordinator. I coordinate all of your graduations and award ceremonies, pretty much anything academic, and I'm very excited to be part of the podcast team.
This is Lieutenant Commander Colleen Wilmington. I probably won't be on very many more shows.
Oh yeah, you're graduating.
Looking forward to where the Trident Room Podcast goes from here, though.
Woo.
Yeah, graduate in June.
Woo. Congrats.
Congrats. Woo. Hey y'all, this is Lieutenant Anthony Castillo, Medical Service Corps prior, enlisted prior SWO nuke. I'm a current PhD student, meaning I'm working towards partial head damage, like some of my mentors mentioned here. So yeah, I'm here for a few more years after that, so you'll be stuck with me for a bit longer. Thanks for joining the show.
All right, so let's get this party started. First, we got a cheers.
Cheers. Yay.
Awesome. All right, so we have a glass of questions that we have randomly generated.
For the viewers, we have a giant glass.
Giant glass.
That is full of all of Elena's questions.
I would like to just not have to think about it. And there's 3 of Anthony's. I think there might be. I think there might be 50
for the
of my questions compared to your 3.
For the OR students, calculate the probability of selecting mine.
All right, Colleen, since you're graduating, close your eyes.
Okay.
Yay.
And pull out a question. I just kind of wrote these down. I didn't prepare anything, so even though they're my questions, I don't know.
So what are we expecting with the topics, Elena?
They're all over.
All over the place.
They're
Great.
very, very random.
Okay.
Some are military related, some aren't. So.
All right. Best or worst leadership advice you ever got?
Okay, so that was definitely a Navy one. But
Not necessarily.
It can be anything that you've received in your life. So, and then just, it doesn't have to be like the actual advice, but like where were you, what happened, like why was it that, all that kind of stuff.
I guess since I drew, best leadership advice is just to remember to take time to be yourself and for your family, because when you get done with the military, hope that your family's still standing there at the door waiting for you. So don't pawn them off all the time. And I guess worst leadership advice I've ever gotten.
Yeah, that's kind of hard for me because I think I blocked it out. I think I just proactively forgot it.
Yeah, I think I gotta think more on the worst
fair.
advice.
I can hop in. So I think one of the worst advice I got was I had a boss, and he gave me the parable. I don't know if y'all have heard of it, about like your boss can ask for a rock, and they don't know.
Yeah, I was just talking about this today.
Yeah,
the, ask for a rock thing.
Yeah, and they don't know what rock they want. It's like if you're a leader, like
can you explain? I'm not too familiar with this.
Yeah. So there's this parable like, hey, I'm gonna task you with something, and I'm assuming that. This is probably outside the military as well, though, too. But I'm gonna task.
It pertains.
Yeah, I'm gonna task you with something, but I'm not sure what I want you to do. But do something and then bring it to me. And
so basically, it's like the parable goes, hey, the boss comes in one day. They tell you like, hey, I want a rock, and you're like, huh, sweet, sir, I got you. Like, I'm going.
Easy day.
Easy day. Here's a rock, and then the boss is like, you give him the rock, right? And so then the boss is like, well,
like I wanted
a bigger rock.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're like, okay, oh, fine, cool. Let me go get a bigger rock. So you spend the effort to go get a bigger rock, and then you bring it back to the boss, and the boss is like, no, I wanted a shiny rock. And you're like, okay. So you go out and find a bigger, shinier rock, and you bring it back, and then it's like, no, I want a pink rock. And you're like, oh my God.
I want an amethyst. Like, what?
Yeah,
Why did you say in the beginning?
If you have guidelines, put them out up front.
All up front, so that there's only one one time that you have to spend the energy and the effort, and you can give them the product that they're wanting the first go.
With all fairness, this is a relatively junior, so when I was kind of first coming in, relatively junior, I guess, leader on that end. Maybe not age-wise, but at least like his leadership.
Like experience-wise?
Experience-wise.
Yeah.
So like understandably, looking back on it, I can kind of understand that. Even if like sometimes when we would give deliverables up to his boss, our, a boss as well, like, I don't know, man, like, she's not going to like this. Like, oh, no, I parable the rock. Like, I'm going to bring it. And then she's going to I got this. She's going to tell me maybe she wants it or don't want it. I'm like, I don't know, man. She's going to be kind of pissed off at you. We're like, no, I got this. And then he'd bring it up to her and she'd be like, this is what I wanted. Like, I told you what I wanted specifically because I don't want any sort of nuance. Like, this is me getting, like, an order. Mm-hmm. Like a logical, lawful order.
So it was almost opposite. Like, he told you exactly what you wanted, but it didn't give you any room to show that maybe there was something else?
No, that was his boss, which is
that was his boss.
Yeah, who was more clear, and she would give guidance to him, and then for some reason he would take it and be like, oh, actually she means this, or like, clearly there's some more nuance to this.
Oh, he would interpret.
Yeah, I have to be more nuanced with what she wants versus like, no, she gave kind of clear guidelines. Not to say you can't be flexible, of course, right? The part of creativity, that's the American way, but at least have some sort of structure or an outline. That we were looking for, kind of thing. So that was kind of some of the worst advice that I got.
And what was that advice again?
Just like your boss is going to have a rock, they're not going to know what you want or what they want from the rock. So just go with the flow. If you have any questions, like just ask your boss. Like, what are you looking for? And like, let's get to the same page, so I can we can as a team come to this deliverable together.
You should always be able to ask questions. I mean, there's a time and a place, especially like don't. In the middle of an actual physical battle, maybe not ask what's going on, like,
right.
But if you're planning or if you're trying to just figure stuff out before kinetic action or non-kinetic action takes place, then
or be comfortable with that flexibility. I mean, that's the Navy way is command by negation as well, right? And I don't know if you've ever heard of command by negation, or so like there's only so much you can do, and it harkens back to the British of yore, right? You're working on ships, right? Each ship has to do their own thing. So you go up flat. They throw up flags to give like direction and guidance. Or Admiral Nelson's a good example. But what you're trying to execute, it's upon the ship to decide what they want to do exactly to get to that mission or to get to that point, whatever the outcome is.
Yeah, you have the intent, but it's up to the ship to figure out how to get there.
That's right. Yeah. So what's the commander's intent, which should be flexible enough to allow you to do that, but also logical and contained enough. So do that. So that's part of the training we get also too in our JPME classes as well. Mm-hmm. So that I've learned more from that, I think, which is a good thing.
JPME is just a joint class,
right?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, Joint Professional Military Education. It's mandated by Congress. We're supposed to take that, and involves 4 courses, right? Strat and War, Strategy and War, which is one of my favorites.
Theater decision making,
TSDM, and then
JMO 1 and 2.
JMO, Joint Military Operations, right? 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. And they all talk about this stuff, like how to give orders, stuff like that. So as you're climbing up the ranks, there's more of an expectation, like you have a background on like how to work in like in a very active environment, but also allowing flexibility and creativity. Yeah. So that's something that I learned for. I would submit a pretty interesting career advice from one of my bosses.
That is very interesting. I like going on the opposite kind of what I said earlier. Was like usually it's like just tell me specifically, tell me exactly what you want, and that way I can make sure that I give it to you. Like as somebody that's providing a product, but being like kind of higher up leadership. I guess like when I was junior, I was so frustrated with my superiors when they wouldn't. They like left it open-ended. Mm-hmm. And now that I am kind of in that position, I'm like, oh, I get it, because I know what I want and I know how I would do it, but I can tell them exactly, like I can tell them what the impact I want. Yeah, right. But they may figure out a way that I never even thought of. To do it or to accomplish, or a way to present the information that was way better than what I thought I wanted. So if I were to tell them exactly what I wanted, they would have no room to show me that there was a different way. And
and like Tony mentioned, like commander's intent, or the like, this is the mission of
high level.
This like if you're standing on the bridge of a ship and you're like, captain's not there, I'm in charge, I'm officer of the deck, I know what commander's intent is, I know what the mission is, I need to make a decision. And then you bring all of us here at NPS, and we were kind of talking about it before, about we're challenged here to think critically.
Yeah.
When really, we've been challenged to think critically our whole way here. Like, how do I fulfill commander's intent? How do I fulfill this mission? What are my options? Here's what I have to work with. How do I do this? But it's the commander's intent. They have to figure out how to write that statement.
Yeah, it's so hard.
And then, maybe stoically stand there and wait for guidance instead of issuing out directives.
Right.
But then having the courage to make those directives when the time is right.
Yeah.
That's what I appreciate so much about President Rondeau at every graduation. She specifically tells our students, don't let anyone call you a future leader. Like, you are leaders now. You have been leaders. And it really speaks to what you were just saying, how you have to take on these leadership roles, whether or not you are given specifics and guidance. You have to be able to act on those things.
What's do you have a good advice that you want to talk about? That was bad, right?
Yeah, I think a good one that I've come across again and again, multiple mentors and leaders, good ones and bad ones too, have told me just, do the right thing, keep working hard, find your passion, and things usually work out in the end for that.
Like Podcast Club.
There you go. That's it.
Your passion.
Yeah. So, we're beneficial to, we're far enough, I think, in our careers now where we're liking what we're doing, and if we didn't, then we'd go somewhere else. Not everyone has that benefit. I understand that, but at least through my time, I've had that so far, and I really enjoyed that aspect behind that. So that's definitely something positive. That consistent leadership have told me to, hey, do the right thing, do what you like. Somebody above you may not appreciate it, but as long as you're making an impact on the deck plates, then that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That makes sense.
How about yourself there, Laura?
I've been racking my brain.
Any names?
My attention span is not that long, so I'm like having to think past last week is a struggle. The only thing I can really think of, I worked for someone that it was less about advice in words, but just kind of their actions taught me how to not, or what I wanted to bring to my leadership tool belt, as they say, and what I wanted to leave out, because he was just very indifferent as a manager, and I felt that a lot of his employees were kind of walking over him in certain aspects that it wasn't my place to say, like, hey, you should do X, Y, and Z, because he knows that they're happening. But just, I feel like a leader who either doesn't care or is too busy to connect with their team that's kind of my worst case scenario. You have to find what drives the people that you work with and that you engage with, and figure out how to lead with your actions as well as your words.
Do you think that he may have had the requisite skill at some point in time?
No, absolutely not.
Wow.
It was a career of opportunity, and I think he was learning alongside us.
I asked that because I've had some bosses, friends, mentors, left, right, up and down, people that I've known who were like, they would have fit perfectly in a different time period versus, you know what I mean? And I'm sure we're going to come across that at some point too.
Different time period, different type of command.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like, what did you say? Like, you can't say that anymore.
This person is operational. Why did you put them in an admin billet?
Yeah. Like, what? Yeah, that's a good point too.
This person's driving people insane.
Yeah, he needs to be on a seat. Like, not pushing paper over here, making copies. Like, he's going to lose his mind.
But yeah, that pretty much sums up that experience.
Was that both best and worst, I guess, because it's two sides of the same coin, I suppose, or?
Not necessarily. No, I think just worse. I'll try to think of a best.
I think it's interesting, like, what your brain goes to, because some people were like, oh, I know immediately my example of worst. Or like, and then there's like me and a couple of people here, like, I know my example of best, but I actually don't have a majority of my worst examples were more actions
Right. Yeah.
of like either leadership styles or
Or
work
it's-
ethic styles
It's
that I
something
just don't
that you've
want.
taken and you've identified, I don't want to do that,
Yeah.
but instead of focusing on that action or that style, it's how do I not do that? How do I
opposite of
rise
that, yeah.
above
Right.
that?
Yeah.
And so, like, now we don't see it as the worst advice or something because we're like, well, I've adapted it. I know what I want to do.
Yeah, I've used it.
I've used it, so it's like it wasn't really bad advice
Yeah.
because it made me the leader I am.
Well, it was like bad at the time, but I was
Yeah.
able to like.
We got a plane.
We're getting a
flying
plane.
above us, y'all.
Yeah. Airplane.
Or it's like the person like, I don't agree with this leadership style. It's like,
Yeah.
but like I know that. I know
And-
that about myself.
Yeah.
Now you know that it's authentic, everyone. Yeah, no, 100%.
But-
Or we all went to therapy and we put the
Right.
worst behind us.
Yeah, my
right?
dad
So-
actually, come to think of it, I think gave me the best advice.
Ooh.
Whether or not I chose
like
to
that.
listen to it or continue to listen to it, he reminds me constantly that I need to delegate more when I have
Oh,
when I
yeah.
have the opportunity to
That's a
as
hard
a
thing to
leader.
do.
That is
That's
And
a
I'm
hard thing
like,
to
but
do. Yeah.
like kind of
But
what
I
you
know
were
exactly
saying.
what I
Yeah,
want.
yeah,
I know
exactly.
what I
Coming
do it.
full circle.
It's easier for me to do it,
Yeah.
and it takes less time than me to teach it to somebody else.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, like the saying. This is not my like advice thing, but the saying that I always kind of go back to is like a good leader or a good manager. I would say a good manager. They manage their way out of a job, right? Like they teach everyone below them how to do their job so well that the
Yeah.
manager's no longer necessary. Like you train yourself out of
Yeah.
a job.
I was like, I had
would
a
love that.
mentor tell me, I think I was doing my checkout interview, and they were like, how are you feeling? And I was like, I don't want to leave.
Aw.
Like, I know what my
what I'm
job
doing.
is. I know what
yeah,
to do.
yeah, yeah.
I know what
And
I'm
they were
doing.
like, then it's time for you to leave.
Yep.
And I went,
No.
excuse me?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
once you figure out what you're doing and you feel comfortable doing it, you have
It's-
mastered the tasks that you were coming
Yeah.
here, you came here for,
And
and it is time to go find a new adventure.
where
And
you
it's like,
feel like you
what?
know nothing for 3/4 of the time, and then 1/4 you finally figure it out, and then you got to leave again.
I've always wondered that about the military, I guess. I don't know what other militaries do. Maybe shame on me for not taking advantage of the opportunity here at NPS to ask more
Yet.
foreign officers about. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yet. Yeah, that's a good
Yet.
point.
I don't know what you're gonna say, but yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do other foreign militaries also have transfers for their officers within like 2 to 3 years?
Well, I mean, I don't know
Like-
about 2 to 3 years, but like I got embedded. I was awarded the amazing opportunity to be embedded with the Royal Navy.
Which
with
one?
my
Sorry,
job.
sorry, the.
Royal Navy.
The Royal Navy, the UK.
Oh, okay. Because is
Yeah.
Australian Royal Navy
The
still?
capital
like-
R Royal
Oh, okay,
Navy.
okay. Gotcha. Sorry, yeah.
The
Yeah.
Royal-
Capital
no.
T,
Because
capital R.
Cambodia's Royal Navy too, so that's all I'm
That's
asking.
fair.
Norway has a
the
monarchy,
actual
right?
ID says Royal Navy, so, yeah. Anyway,
I just
HMS, and
Our Cambodian brethren over here listening to the podcast.
it was not Cambodian. That would have been a totally different adventure.
I think it's a monarchy. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But they so I was in one of their environmental commands, and I
Cool.
got to see kind of how they do it, which
Yeah.
they do it in a different way than us, which was interesting. So we pack up our entire family,
Yeah.
move our entire family to
Yeah.
the next tour, but that's also kind of a fallout from our country being so physically
Yeah.
That makes sense.
US is
Huge.
huge.
Right.
Yeah.
and
gigantic,
so
yeah.
there they would find a place, like they would find a place or a house or
commute,
whatever that
yeah.
they
Yeah.
liked or an area they could afford.
Yeah.
And they would commute to their work for the week, and they would have lodgings
Wow.
or barracks at the workplace,
Yeah.
and they'd be there during the work week, and for the weekends they'd all go home.
Mm.
And it was just such a completely foreign concept to me. And I usually use my workplace as my social structure, at least in the beginning.
Yeah.
And so everybody was gone on the weekend, and I was like, I don't know what to do.
Where's everybody?
What am I gonna do? But they do rotate. They do rotate as well.
Yeah.
I think that their rotation, just depending on the country, their rotations
Yeah.
are going to be different.
And
Like-
what their specialty is.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I asked that because I know other services around the world, there's a very distinct path between, like, if you want to be by the way, we have Scott over here who's just kind of observing right now, but he's just hanging out. But I might defer to you on this question,
he'll
man.
be a host as soon as
Yeah,
before he knows it.
I might defer to you for this question because he's a SWO. That other services have.
And can you elaborate on SWO for us?
Sorry, yeah,
non-military?
great question. Surface warfare.
That's why we have you around, Laura.
Officer, yeah, great question. Surface warfare
Catch us
officer. It's people who lead and command surface ships, and they can take different paths.
Are there
And,
non-surface ships?
that's true. Ooh, that's a good point. All right. I'm not a SWO anymore.
I get that joke too.
I defer to that. I have my SWO pin, but it's been a while since I've been on a board, so thank you. Put on by commanders, thanks. So other services, they have a very distinct path where either you're topside, meaning like you're above the you're you don't go into the engine room, you're just commanding the ship or doing, I don't know, like operations officer stuff, I guess. Or you take another path, which is you work predominantly in the engine room, everything like below the surface kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, they still do that.
Okay, great. Yeah. So John McCain, when he was still alive, he was like proposing, like, well, maybe we need to change that or have some different ideas because other militaries have a very, like I said, distinct path. We don't do that in the United States Navy. You are a jack of all trades, a master of none kind of thing, and
Every sailor, fireman.
yeah, you're everything, which makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't
right?
matter what your department is. Everyone's a damage control.
That's right. That's
specialist.
right. And the theory is that, like, you have enough of a general knowledge to command a ship where you don't. You have enough to be able to ask certain questions, like we talked about earlier, right, and lead people to the commander's intent from that. But other navies do not have that. It's it's bifurcated.
Yeah, it's very
where you
interesting.
want to go. So that's why I was kind of curious what other.
I think we kind of modeled
Navy,
ourselves
yeah.
a lot from the UK Navy. So a lot of that command by negation and that kind of stuff
Yeah,
comes
totally.
from that. So that
Yeah.
makes sense that they would be closer to us. But
Oh.
yeah, I think I was stationed in Japan, and I think I remember. I could be wrong. Don't cancel me. But it was that whole like questioning authority or requesting clarification or that that two-way communication street didn't really exist for them, and they were very much, this is your job, this is the only job you do,
Yeah.
this is the only platform you do it on.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Listeners, if you know different, please let us know.
You know what does exist though? That the grog for them. So there you go. Yeah. We don't drink alcohol on ships unless we're out at sea
No.
for so long.
And even then, we always pull into port before we can do it.
Exactly.
So back to the original question, I think I again don't have an example of bad yet, but I've had really good leadership throughout my career and examples to follow. I've had bad examples to follow as well. But the best advice that I've ever received, and I received it just in time, basically, and I've already told the guy who told me, but I was on my staff tour, which is basically, I graduated Naval Postgraduate School the first time, and then I went and served under an admiral for one of the strike groups as his meteorology and oceanography officer, his environmental forecaster. Did the whole tour, and then I was going to be an XO at a different command, and they do that like 360 survey thing. So they do like the survey where I fill it out, but then I also ask various other people in different structure hierarchies to me. So like my boss, my peers,
Up, down,
my
left, and right.
subordinates.
Yeah.
And they'll fill out their own questionnaire about me, give me feedback, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Some of it's very hard to take, but some of it's they'll be honest. They'll be brutally honest, and it's anonymous so that they can be that way. But
Did you know who was saying some of the
not
brutal
some of them, no.
Okay.
And they weren't all.
But you know,
like, they're not
Seaman
all
Timmy.
bad.
Timmy was one of them. You're like
I
that
know,
Seaman
yeah.
Timmy.
Yeah. He
Damn it.
always puts a semicolon instead of a comma.
I knew it.
That's like a
All right.
I'll get Timmy.
I reviewed his eval. I knew exactly who this guy is.
So, but one of the guys that I asked to do like kind of a superior to do the review, he was like, I'm not going to make it anonymous. I'm going to tell you exactly what So he like sat me down, told me all of his reviews, said why he said what he said. Some good, some bad, some not. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was all helpful.
It's all feedback.
It's all feedback. And the thing he told me, he's like, the best advice I can give you is that when you're in a stressful situation and you have people coming to you and they tell you bad news, just say okay.
Don't rip their heads off.
That's it. Just be like, okay. And I had witnessed him do that on the cruise, or not cruise, on the deployment.
Yeah.
And I had thought to myself, like, I don't know how he, like, that was really bad news, like, whatever. I remember it being like detrimental to the operation or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. And I was just like, man, because I'm a volatile person. Like, I will spin off.
Noted.
Anybody that's worked with me knows that I will rant like the best of them. But his point was that as a leader, you're going to get people to coming to you with bad news. It's not always going to be, if it's all good news, something's wrong, right? And but if you react, if you start, like, if you're an oven, right? If they open the door and they just, like, blast of hot air coming.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
And they're afraid to come to you.
I've had a couple of leaders that were ovens, but they have this blast of hot air coming
Total
at them
oven.
every time. They will stop coming to you, and that's the problem. Like, that's when you'll have those things that people are fired for, or, you know, people get hurt, or, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
Safety issues happen, and so the best thing that you can do is, no matter how stressed you are, just keep a blank face and just say, okay, and then move on and, like, kind of figure out what the solution will be. And sometimes it was super hard, especially being XO and especially having personnel issues that come up again and again and again.
Right.
Or, you know, frustrations up chain or whatever. But I had feedback, and it was a complete departure from what I had been as a leader up until that point. Because the way I've been as a leader up until that point has been more inclusive, team building, and I allowed them to see what the news would do in order to, like, show that I was human, in order to show that I was one of them and all of that kind of stuff. But at that point, you're no longer one of them anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you have to be, like, the protection of them and figure out what to do. And so it was a complete departure, but it was the best advice I could have gotten going into an XO tour.
That's amazing.
And so that will always be my default now.
Noted
It works.
again.
It works.
If I ever tell you bad news.
Yeah.
Well, nobody.
If I say
yeah.
okay, you know I'm processing.
Yeah.
Internally, an atomic bomb is going off, but you'll never see it.
I had a mentor that kind of added on to that.
Yeah.
And it was, their response was, so what's our solution? And so
Well-
it gave them time to stop and go, okay, here's A, B, C that I would
Yeah.
do, but if you come to me with a problem, bring a solution.
So I
If
actually
you
disagree
can.
with
If
that. I was
you
going to say I
can.
disagree with that.
And so
We've
if
been
you-
raised
yeah.
on that, and I have
Right.
to disagree with that.
But I think that it does, like,
In certain circumstances,
yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
If people are just complaining, well, what do you want to
Absolutely. They're
do?
not
But if
reading the
it's a
instructions
genuine
or
problem,
whatever.
yeah.
or if you're waiting to go tell them of bad news until you have a solution, that's a problem. But creating the environment where I think it can have a solution.
Yeah, and that's engendering critical
let's come
thinking
to
as
this.
well. That's
Right.
that's training somebody that hasn't been in your position yet or hasn't had your
But if they,
experience.
Absolutely.
but if they come to you like, here's the problem, and I don't have a solution, okay,
Be like,
let's
I have
figure
thought
it
about
out.
it. I've gone to the instructions. I've done my due diligence. I still don't
Yeah.
have anything. That I'm okay with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And-
I had
not
a bad
not
experience.
insisting upon like you.
Yeah.
Do not bring me a
Right, because
problem
it's
without
never
a
easy to
solution.
give bad news, so you
No.
can't, yeah.
And
it
one
takes
of
a lot of
the-
courage.
One of the leaders that I had that was an oven, it was basically like the worst experience of my life until that point.
Oh my gosh.
But there was an issue with like one of the forecasts. He didn't like what we did, and in front of my watch team, he basically was like drilling me and asking for a solution, or like, you know, demanding me have one. And it was one of those situations where like, this is the best I could do. I don't
Yeah.
know what the solution is.
This is the weather.
This
What do you
is
want me to
it.
do, dude?
Yeah.
Like, what do you-
I'm in sales. I don't know.
You don't
Yeah.
like the forecast? Okay.
But
Here's a
it
tanning
really,
booth. I mean,
yeah.
want sun? There you go. Here's some
I
goggles.
can
He was
fan you lightly
Yeah.
for a slight breeze.
Yeah. He was of the school of thought that like a problem should always have a solution brought alongside it. And there are situations that I have lived through that didn't. And I needed
Yeah.
somebody that had more experience than me, had different experiences than me
Yeah.
to help me with that. And that's
Yeah.
why diversity,
Which-
or like diversity of experience, like why you have superior officers in the wardroom, why you have so many different people in the wardroom or on the unit of different lifestyles. Like
I mean that's
is good.
That's a fair assessment. I mean, because also as somebody comes to you with a problem, and they're like, you know, hey, here's my solutions. You're like, well, you know, if you know their limitation, like I know that's not, you're not gonna tell them this. Like, you know,
You've never known of this.
You've never known of this.
solution.
Yeah. Let me help guide you. Let me help
Yeah.
give
Well,
you
it's like-
feedback. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's totally understandable, and a leader should understand. Like, someone's coming to me, maybe they have a solution. but maybe they don't because they just have a certain limitation that they've never encountered this before. It's up to you to help guide them. Like, hey, I know you're frustrated or frustrated. Have you thought about this? Thought about that?
Yeah.
Talk to this person. Hey,
Yeah.
we can contact this
Have
person.
you checked here?
Yeah, have you checked here kind of thing. Come back to me later. You know, we'll figure it out. Moving forward, and then that, like you mentioned, like okay,
Okay.
okay,
Okay.
okay. But
I
you know,
think-
sorry, really quick. So
you're good.
This isn't just a military problem though. Too though, I was one of the podcasts I listened to. It was talking about CEO succession pipelines, and CEOs, like most CEOs, are like horrible at this because I forget who mentioned you want to train your person out of a job. Like you're training yourself at a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned that,
Exactly.
right? Yeah. So a lot of CEOs are like terrible at like succession planning, and there's countless CEOs, I'm not gonna name any names, but out there now, who have had to come back just because they didn't train the right person at the right time to take over, right? And now they come back to the organization. Don't get me wrong, they're probably killing it. The shareholders like it, whatever. And maybe certain CEOs are who they are now just because the previous CEO died, basically, or saying so it's important that we are able to get this experience for some of this stuff as well. But it's not just a military thing. It's other organizations that have the same problem.
Right.
For that.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not just a military thing at all. Laura can attest.
Yeah, one time I was training for a job, and the person I was replacing was like, "You're gonna need me when I'm gone," and I was like,
Excuse me?
"Oh,
You're gonna need
yeah." I was like,
Wow.
"Oh,
You
yeah,"
didn't do a good job.
and I was like,
What?
"No," on my deathbed in my head, I'm thinking that because I was like, absolutely,
Do you
That's
even
not-
know me? Yeah.
Like that's what lights a fire under my butt, and I'm like,
yeah, that's what I mean. Like I will.
Excuse me?
I will be, yeah. So I made it my mission to not need them.
So you killed
Yeah.
them. I'm sorry. They were missing. I'm sorry. This is what we're re-recording.
Yeah.
If I told you, I'd have to. No.
So that just got real.
Yeah.
We already Rose Garden, so I'm
We're in
sure
a rose garden with an
So,
airplane and a bird.
Yeah. So all of that kind of also made me think of what I think my worst leadership advice is, and that was, there's no such thing as a bad chief, and mess don't come for me. There are chiefs that I
If
absolutely
they come
love.
for you, then my mess will break them.
Yeah.
Will defend you because my mess admitted that they were bad
But
chiefs. They're
It's
rare, but they're there.
the strength of the mess is in their different experiences.
Yeah.
One chief does not have all of the answers.
Nope.
One chief, at
It's
the
like a
end-
wardroom, though.
Yeah,
Anybody-
it's
any
that same
group
as
of
the
people,
wardroom.
right?
And end of the day, chiefs are still people,
Yeah.
and they
They're
have
human.
you don't know what's going on in their lives necessarily. Like if they're in a different department, did they just have to give a sailor bad news? Like yes, we're always ready to fight, but we're still people.
Yeah.
And so that's just one piece of advice that has always kind of stuck with me. And I'm like, no, like
They're still people, and
they're people.
normal cross section of humanity will be represented in any group, good, bad, ugly, like all
Yeah.
of that. So
And then it's
Yeah.
it's my job as leader. I hate this chief is struggling. Go find another chief. Let them know one of their own
trying
is
to
struggling.
help as we can, and then
Yeah. But it's also kind of weird now for me, realizing that I'm the same age as some of the chiefs now,
Yep.
and like coming
I
in
was
as
older than majority
Yeah,
of
I-
my chiefs.
yeah,
That was
Um,
weird.
and like
I wasn't okay with that.
ooh, that's kind of interesting because you like movies, Hollywood, you think of chiefs and they are just these surly,
Salty just,
folks,
like
and
crusts off of them as they
and
walk
they're-
down the
it's
the gangway.
just
We've
like,
also, as a generation, I think, learned the miracles of sunscreen, which
Yeah.
helps
That's
us.
very true.
mean-
I look at those celebrities and they're
Yeah.
like, how is this
Yeah.
guy? It's like he's actually 30. He looks like he's 50.
Right.
Yeah.
not being
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
smoke in combat.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, sunscreen and don't
Crazy things
smoke.
that we now don't do anymore.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. Yeah, it's like looking at movies and you're like, how old is this guy supposed to be? He's like 17. I think that guy's actually 35.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's like all the actors are like, oh yeah, I'm 25. I'm like, you're playing a 14-year-old. How?
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
Yeah. All right. Well, any other by the ways for this first question of ours? First to go at a.
I
Candid
think
discussion?
for anyone looking for something to do, the Corks and Forks I think is coming up soon.
Oh, I love Corks and Forks.
Forks and
yeah.
Forks, you have to.
Tickets should
You
open
have
on
to
the
like
first.
literally
Tickets
get on there
depend-
immediately when it opens to get tickets because they sell out fast.
Yep. So by the time this airs, there may or may not be tickets, but go
Yeah.
ahead and give a look because it's a good time.
Do you know the theme for this one?
Ooh, I don't.
Okay,
No.
fair enough.
The last one was Latin Fusion.
Ooh.
Nice.
That
I
was
don't think they
fun.
announce it until the tickets are on sale.
I think
Oh,
it's
is
already
that-
announced.
Oh,
Yeah.
was it?
Sometimes they've done before. I don't know if they were behind the ball sometimes.
Yeah,
but
I've only
I knew
been
like
to 2 of them.
obviously February was Valentine's. That was really
Oh, I
fun.
think it's wine themed.
Ooh, I
just
like
in
that one.
general.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's what I remember from the last one I went
Like
to.
bag of wine kind of thing?
Yeah, some like Carlo Rossi box.
Space
You
bag.
take it home
okay.
with you, yeah.
No,
All
but they
right.
are really good about like outsourcing from across the area and
Oh, yeah.
bringing in different wines.
It's
and all
yeah, it's
that.
a good time.
All right. Well, thank you, listeners. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have a question that you would like us to discuss, please email the Trident Room email that will be coming up at the end of the show. And we hope to see you here on the next question. Cheers!
Cheers,
with
y'all.
beers.
Cheers! Woo! Yay! Air cheers.
Thanks for joining us in the Trident Room. For more information about today's guests and topics, please visit the show notes online at nps.edu/Trident Room Podcast. The Trident Room Podcast has been brought to you by the Naval Postgraduate School Alumni Association and Foundation. For questions, comments, and suggestions, please email us at tridentroompodcasthost@nps.edu.